G'day YouTube and welcome back to my channel. So a quick progress update. I was 104.9 kilos on Monday morning, which is just after I recorded my last video. And as of this morning, it's Saturday at the moment, I'm 102.3 kilos. I'll throw the pounds conversion up on the screen in post because I'm not the rain man, I don't have a brain for numbers, I never remember the conversions, and I don't want to have to write it down. So yeah, 2.6 kilos loss in the space of 5 or 6 days is actually probably a little bit too high. I need to make sure I'm hitting my macros every day. I generally do. I'm just a bit concerned. Might be water loss, might be something simple. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. Very happy. I'm starting to get to a point where friends and family and people at work are starting to make comment about how much weight I've lost, which is awesome. You know, it's really motivating. Obviously, it will plateau at some point. That's just a natural part of the weight loss process. So, that's really, from my perspective, I think that's when, the big picture motivations that you should really think about going into a weight loss program. That's when those come into play. It's not when things are great. You don't need to really think too much about it. It's when things aren't so great. So, you plateau, you're not losing weight. Maybe you put a couple of kilos back on. That's all naturally part of the process, and you really need to just stick with the program. That's when it's important to know what your motivations are and to constantly remind yourself, even if you have to write them up on the fridge or something, just so you look at them every day. But that's really where you get tested. Anyway, so for this video, I wanted to quickly run through the basics of the program I'm on. Now, I'm not sponsored or paid for by Thomas DeLauer's Science-Based Six-Pack. I will talk about it a lot. That's why I wanted to say that, because I will talk about it a lot. I am really enjoying the program. I don't really have anything too much to compare it to. I've done some other stuff in the past with tracking macros and fitness and exercise programs. But this is the first time I've really just jumped on the internet, found something that blew my mind in terms of running through the science, and all the videos he's got out there really clicked with me, and jumped into the program. So yeah, I just want to make it really clear. I'm not getting anything as kicks for doing these videos or for talking positively about Science-Based Six-Pack as a program. So just want to get that out of the way up front. So anyway, the core principles of the program I'm on really start with intermittent fasting. So there's a lot of talk on the internet. I've done some research. I'm not an expert in fitness or health in general. So again, just putting that out there up front. But I have done a little bit of research. I've read a couple of studies. I've watched heaps of videos, read some articles about intermittent fasting, and it seems the consensus seems to, it seems that the discourse seems to, run to either people love it or people don't see the specific value of intermittent fasting over a typical calorie restricted, 5 meals a day diet. Now, those people say, well, it isn't giving you any extra benefits that just watching your macros and exercising regularly is giving you. I'm not sure. I don't really agree with that, just based on my own experience in the past. I've been on macro-specific diets and stuck to them religiously, and now obviously I've been doing intermittent fasting for a full 3 weeks out of the program. And I'm noticing some pretty significant specific differences out of doing intermittent fasting. And if I look at articles online, a lot of specific benefits that are particular to intermittent fasting jump out at me. So I'm not going to run through them all. I'm not an expert. You're better served doing your own research or watching a whole bunch of videos. There are heaps on YouTube about IF. But the key points that jumped out at me were that intermittent fasting specifically increases human growth hormone, which helps metabolize fat faster, or at least it encourages fat loss. It increases muscle retention, which is important. Obviously, it drops your insulin levels down while you're fasting, which means that you're more sensitive to insulin in your bloodstream, meaning that you can more easily pull nutrients out of your food when you do start eating, when you break that fast. It increases luteinizing hormone, which is the precursor to testosterone, which, as I said in my first video, testosterone is one of those key hormones for fat loss, at least in men. Really, most of my research is specific to men, so I just wanted to make that clear. Intermittent fasting allows you to better use fat throughout your body, in your cells, particularly with some of the when you pair it up with some of the macros that I'm focusing on. And finally, it decreases inflammation. So, obviously when you're working out, you don't want inflammation in your cells or in your body, because it reduces the ability for your cells to absorb those nutrients that they desperately need, particularly protein, to build more muscle tissue. So, those are the kind of the top points that I teased out when I was looking at research and reading articles and videos. So, specifically for me, intermittent fasting. So I'm fasting for 16 hours a day, and then I have an 8-hour eating window. Now I make it really easy by starting my fast at midnight, obviously after dinner, and then I won't eat again until 4 p.m. Now, the start of the Science-Based Six-Pack program recommends you start fasting 3 days a week. Now, I'm not going to go into too many specifics, just let me throw this out there. I'm not going to go into too many specifics about the Science-Based Six-Pack program. I really, I kind of have to talk about it if I'm going to talk about what I'm doing, but at the same time, I'm not going to give you all the information in the program, because I really encourage you to go and check it out. And, if you make a connection with it the way that I did, I really encourage you to spend the money and buy it. To me, so far, I'm only 3 weeks in, and I already think it's a fantastic investment. Anyway, so I'm fasting for 16 hours a day, eating for 8, and it was recommended that I start with a 3-day-a-week fast. To be honest with you, after the first week, I made the decision to skip to a 5-day-a-week fast. So I was just finding that my moods were swinging pretty drastically between eating and not eating. So, I'd fast on a Monday and then eat normally on a Tuesday, and I'd fast on a Wednesday and eat normally on a Thursday, and then I'd fast on a Friday. So that was my working week. And I found that on the days that I was eating normally, I didn't feel nearly as good as I did when I was fasting. So I thought, screw it, it can't hurt. It might shock my system a little bit while I adjust, but I figure, why not rip the Band-Aid off quickly? So I went to a 5-day-a-week fast straight away. And for the last 2 weeks, I haven't looked back. I feel heaps better when I'm fasting than when I'm not. So, I still have my cheat days on Saturday and Sunday. I'm still sticking to my I'm still sticking to my calorie restrictions, which is about 1,800 calories a day. But, on the weekends, I kind of eat whatever I want within reason. I'm still watching what I'm eating, obviously, but yeah. And then during the week, during my eating window, there's some specifics around what to eat to break the fast. There's a high importance on how you break your fast. If you just go start smashing the carbohydrates and pig out straight after, as your first meal, then obviously after fasting, you're going to spike your insulin. You're going to throw all that garbage straight into your cells that are waiting for nutrients and ready to absorb, and that's obviously not a good thing. So you kind of want to extend the fat burning benefits of fasting into the eating window as best you can. To break my fast, I usually start with just a little bit of a protein shake, basically. So a little bit of protein, extremely small amount of carbohydrates that you can't get a protein powder with no carbs that I've ever seen. And you kind of need those carbohydrates anyway to unlock the cell walls so that you can absorb the protein, is my understanding. Again, not an expert, but I break my fast with a little bit of protein. And then about half an hour later, I'll have some more protein with a little bit of fat. Again, just to avoid spiking my insulin too much and to start absorbing the nutrients before, waiting an hour and a half, and then I'll have my big meal. Now, when it comes to nutrition, again, I'm sticking to a macro specific diet around carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. That will change throughout the program. So I'm coming into the second month, which I'm actually really excited for, because I start to move from kind of macro restrictions down to more a ketogenic diet. So long term, the idea is to be fasting and be on a ketogenic diet to encourage your body to adopt fat as its primary source of energy rather than carbohydrates. So I'm kind of looking forward to moving into that phase, but we'll get to that. The other thing I found with nutrition is basically I'm an idiot. So I was coming up with a plate of food that hit all the macros I needed to for my main meal, my dinner meal. To have 240 grams of chicken, for example, and then a bunch of steamed veg. I'd usually have about 150 grams, sorry, I've got a fly buzzing around my face, about 150 grams of steamed potatoes for the carbohydrate content, and then I'd have a heap of broccoli, beans, and carrots, all steamed, all really good for you as long as you're sticking to your macros. But I ended up with this mountainous plate of food, and I'll throw a photo up in a sec. And it was ridiculous. I struggled to eat it. In some cases, I had to augment that plate of food with a cup of brown rice. Just to get enough carbohydrates into the meal. And, I'd sit there for like an hour. The food would go cold and I would struggle through it. I'd feel really bloated at the end. And of course, I've still got to have another meal, excuse me, at the, an hour and a half later before the window closes to hit my daily macros. I was really struggling. So I went back to the drawing board, started planning out some different meals, and realized basically, like I said before, I'm an idiot. So, by eating more nutrient-rich foods, you can increase the density of the nutritional value of your food whilst, reducing the volume that you have to eat. So in my case, I could replace this mountain of food with, again, 240 grams of chicken. It's fantastic protein. It's got some fat in it, but it's primarily the protein. A cup of steamed broccoli, half an avocado for all your essential fatty acids and all the good fats that you need, and then 1 cup of brown rice. So all of a sudden, I've got a plate of food that is far more manageable. Excuse me, it's more enjoyable because I'm not bloated and I'm not taking forever to eat it. But I'm still hitting all my macros. So, that was something that was a tip I picked up, is really plan yourself. Plan not just about hitting your macros in a meal, but also plan around whether or not you're actually going to be able to eat it and whether or not you're going to be able to enjoy eating it. I think that's probably really important because you're a lot less likely to stick with the diet if you don't enjoy it. And then, so that's kind of intermittent fasting. That's one of the core principles of the program and my nutrition. And really the other core principle is around exercise. So I'm exercising 3 days a week, and I'm using the core principle of time under tension. So instead of counting reps and doing sets of reps, I'm basically sticking to an amount of time that I am engaging my muscles to perform the exercise. It's really the core basis of time under tension. So, for example, if you were doing a bicep curl using standard process, you'd be doing 3 sets of 12 or 5 sets of 12, whatever, depending on your weight. Whereas time under tension, you're really just doing 30 seconds of bicep curls. And instead of focusing on getting through those reps and, you lift and drop and lift and drop, really time under tension, you're focused just as much on the release of the muscle as you are on the contraction. So as you lift up, you're lifting up slowly in a controlled manner, you're engaging the muscle, and then instead of just releasing the muscle, you're really placing tension all the way down as you drop that barbell. That's really what time under tension's about, and I'm finding it's great. I mean, I hate exercise, but with the time under tension protocol, I'm basically doing supersets of 2 exercises, 20 seconds each, back to back, and then I'll take a 30-second break. And I've got, I think, 3 of those, so 3 supersets, 6 exercises total in a cycle, and then I'll do 5 cycles. So, it only takes me it's less than 20 minutes in the morning, 3 days a week before work to get through my exercises. Now, that's all going to change in phase 2. I start to add some other stuff in. But the things I like about it, it's most of the time it's full body, so there's a lot of different types of push-ups and squats involved in it, really just to engage a number of muscles, and they're all natural movements. I'm not a big fan of specific fixed movements that are mechanically defined by a machine. It doesn't require a gym membership, which is great, and it basically doesn't require any equipment at all. I mean, I've got a gym mat for comfort, I could live without it, and just a flat bench, and that's really all I need. But again, time under tension is all about how long you're engaging the muscle for rather than the reps. And again, beyond the fat loss, I'm also already starting to see the start of the benefits from that type of exercise. So I'm already getting increased muscle mass, and that's great. Anyway, that's all I wanted to run through today, is just basically the program I'm on, what I've been doing, how I've gotten here so far. I mean, I started this program, I think, at 107, 108 kilos, somewhere in that space, maybe a little less. I really need to get my numbers straight before I start recording, because I never remember. I know I started at 111, and I know I'm at 102.3 now. So, and really I'm targeting around the 85 mark. But yeah, anyway, so I'll throw up another video next week. I'm going to start covering some of the other things I'm doing, the supplements I've been using, because I am augmenting my diet, particularly during my fast. I'm drinking plenty of water, because you really do need a lot of water, and I'm adding a whole bunch of additives to that water each day, just to help me with with hunger suppression, and also to keep my electrolyte levels up, because I'm not eating, I'm not getting those natural electrolytes. But water's really important when you're fasting. I think I'm drinking the equivalent of 8 times 8 ounces of water a day during my fasting period, and then I'm adding a bunch of stuff to it. But I have to say, throughout the program so far, in 3 weeks, I've felt hungry once, and that was on the first day. The first day during lunch in the office, when people are walking past with their lunch and sitting down and eating, and it's wafting through the office. That's the only time I've ever felt hungry. And in fact, I started pushing myself a little bit to do longer fasting periods. So instead of a 16-8, I started doing an 18-6, which I will guarantee that I'll go back to at some point. I think the thing that was killing that for me wasn't so much the fasting, because I wasn't hungry at the end of the day anyway. It was more, I had a narrower window to try and get through all my macros. So now that I've figured out that I'm an idiot and I'm getting through all my macros with much smaller quantities of food, I think I'll probably be far more capable of doing that. And obviously the longer the fast, the better, up to a certain point. Anyway, that's all I wanted to cover. So thanks for joining me. Please leave a comment if you've got anything that you want to see more of or see less of, or you think I'm a dickhead. I think I said that last week. I shouldn't swear too much. Subscribe and like the video. Thanks for watching.